Let's talk about something else, imagery. We all use imagery. Imagery really has become core to ArcGIS. There are many things and continued improvements, such as fast visualization, more and easier analysis tools, the ability to have automatic enhancements. When I bring my imagery in, it just looks good. Also, some more technical tools as well, like accurate measurements directly from the imagery. And of course, as Jack mentioned this morning, this idea about dynamic mosaicing and the ability to manage very, very, very large sets of imagery that are both multi-temporal, multi-scale, multi-resolution, all within a single framework. Also, something new, the ability to integrate video, full motion video, within the ArcGIS system. Something else is new at 10.1, LiDAR, support for LiDAR. This same capability of being able to manage very large sets of imagery now extends to the ability to manage very large sets of LiDAR. Also, of course, processing and analysis becomes part of the system as well. My colleague, Gunter Dorfel, some of you remember him. Actually, I think he's one of the most passionate people about how to use imagery within ArcGIS and get the most out of your imagery investment. Gunter, please tell us more about what's happening with 10.1.
Thanks, Dean. I'm going to take some of the examples Dean gave you and show them live to you. And I want to start with this image you see here of the location we're at the moment. It's an image in a web browser. It's coming from an image service. For nearly 2 years, it's been really easy to integrate images like these into image services. It's a GUI image, and some of you might have experienced, well, harder times to add something like this to the desktop, appearing black, not knowing how it's georeferenced, things like that. Well, this is going to change. It's going to change dramatically to your advantage in 10.1. If you look at your catalog in 10.1 and you go to a directory where you have something like GUI or other of those more complex image formats, you will see a new symbol. And so you see it a little better. I'll blow up my screen. Here you go. It's an icon for raster with this small satellite image on top of it. This will show you that ArcGIS knows what's inside this pile of files that you might want to make use of. So if you open that up, and I'll go back from this big screen to the normal view again. If you open that up, ArcGIS will show you which types of images are inside this folder that you can make proper use of. So let's take this multispectral image, drag it to my display, and I have, besides that I'm a little bit shifted, but I can change that, I have the same view immediately in my viewport of ArcGIS Desktop now that you saw before. That brings me to the image analysis window that you might all know from ArcGIS 10, which has been extended in 10.1. The first section I want to talk about is this display section. As you see, and this is just a proof of what I told you before, many settings that do make a lot of sense with this type of imagery have already been set by ArcGIS. There is a new button here, like this one, giving you the ability to immediately see how this image is stretched in its different channels. And it's not necessary actually here because this is a very good stretch, but you can do that interactively now and immediately see the results of what you are doing. Another button, and that one is to be seen in the processing section, is this button that opens up the function chain that was used to produce this image. Function chains have been available in 10.2, but the nice thing about 10.1 and function chain is you can export those function chains and make them function templates. So whatever story you want to work on with your imagery, whatever steps you want to take, you can store them away for reusing them later. Please keep that in mind when we come back to the server later, and I'll show you one of those examples of a template being used. And another new feature here in the image analysis window that Dean has mentioned is this new section called Mensuration. you can, if the image provides the necessary photogrammetric information, you can start doing real-world measurements out of imagery now in ArcGIS 10.1. And we'll have a look at an example. I have the same data set. I'm just making sure that I go to a place that you might probably know, that I sort of learned about when I prepared this. It's one of the outstanding pieces of architecture here in Madrid. It's the Kia Towers. Now, in the center of the image, here you see images that I superimposed on this service, so you know what we're talking about. These are those two towers here. As you see, they are tilted, so it's not a good idea if you want to get the height to just measure the building. You need to do something else. Well, we have something else. Here we have different measurements methods, and one of them is I measure from the top of the building to the top of the shadow that is on the screen here in the center of these points. I'll try to do that. I'll take the top of this building here, and I'll go to the top of the corresponding place of the shadow. I'll click, and well, since I'm a little bit nervous, you know, I'm shivering a little, but 115 compared to 114 isn't bad. Doing that in your hotel room, hitting the right pixel, you'll be at 114.3 plus minus 0.3. Talking about smart imagery, for sure ArcGIS knows which kinds of measurements you can do on your imagery, so you will only have those buttons if they really do make sense. Okay, we have to go back and talk about how do we get image services at all before we move to the server. This is another nice place in Spain. This is Cordoba. And I have a series of images, and to show you how easy an image service actually is built, this is all you need. I have some years of imagery. Let's try to get it even bigger. And I have added a start and end date to them. And to make it a little bit more appealing later on, I have added some other layers that you will see when we continue in this demo. Now I serve this, and that's another improvement in 10.1. Serving an image service is just like serving any other service. I just don't do it now because it'll take 30 worthy seconds that we can use for different things. Okay, so this is my imagery, and it's got many years in it, and wherever I want to use it, let's do it in the desktop. I turn on my time-dependent view. I can go to different points in time and look at the imagery that I have from this area. Once I served it, I can start using my own system here. This is my server here, my image service directory, telling me that this service supports time, you see that down here, and allows me to open it in the arcgis.com map viewer. So I use ArcGIS as a system to see how that would look on a map in the internet. And I can start that and do exactly the same thing because it's a time-aware service. I can run through those different years of my imagery being all in one service. Now I stop it at the next location. Let's take this one and zoom in a little bit. This is not only ortho imagery. I have more data that might be handy coming with it. I can combine all this in an image service and just make sure it appears whenever I want it to appear. That's the most important concept of image service that you should take with you. So, after having done those image services, let's move back to the web. Let's move back to this service that I showed in the beginning and show you that, and this is a major improvement in 10.1. Many new functionalities that have been available in the desktop are now also available in the server. The first corresponding one that we can use again is measuring. It's also available on the web. Now this time we have those 4 huge buildings that you might have seen when you walk out of the area here and look for the skyline of Madrid. I do it on the web, same thing, but this time I use the shadow only to do my measurement. So I try to measure from this point to that point. This is the second building from the left, and on the web it's 150 instead of 250 instead of 249 meters. I want to show you some more nice places here. So we shift to Cordoba again and make use of new functionality on image services over the web. Administration of image services has only been available on the desktop level at 10. Now at 10.1, I can do many things via the REST interface, like adding imagery. If I'm allowed to do so, I just open up a folder, I grab another image, and I say add it to my service. It did that. I have to remember this number, and I can even take attributes of that and sort of change them. I call this image EUC 2011. Apply, I do a change in attributes over the web to this service. And to prove that this image is here, I have a query. You can query image services. There's a table behind that, okay? So I query it, I try to find that image. And this brings me to the point, it's already visible here at that screen, where I will say my first and probably only official Spanish sentence in my career. I had great support, and I want to try to do that this way. Me gustaría dar las gracias a Tracasa Aurensis, la Junta de Andalucía, el Instituto Geográfico Nacional y a Esri España por su colaboración y los datos usados en esta presentación. Thank you very much. But I continue with the demo. I'm not done.
There's more?
Done. Yeah, I have more. I just wanted to say thank you in between. Making you nervous? Okay.
This is exciting, Gunther.
You wanted me to show LiDAR, so I need to go on, right?
I want to see LiDAR. Do you want to see LiDAR? Yes, okay.
Okay, now I sort of said something I didn't want to say in the first, but okay. Now you know it, but I'm not going to say it again. This is a very nice digital surface model, right? And I can use this digital surface model on the web. This is an image service. And all I did is publish this one service of a digital surface model. I'm not planning to publish exposition, slope, whatever. I leave this to the end user, because that's what I can do with image services. So, first thing I'm doing is I make a nice hill shade out of that. This is done on the fly, attaching the data and doing this hill shade. Why should I want to do that? Well, probably I want to make a beautiful map, like using the nice background map and superimposing the hill shade on it. Looks nice, right? I might have a totally different task. My task might be to start digitizing some of the building blocks. Have you ever played around in an elevation model with the slope function and really good elevation data? That makes it easy to digitize building blocks, right? But I want to do something more complicated. I have my own routine, my own step of procedures. I have my function template served with this data. So I'm limiting the view to my data to just the buildings. I extracted them with a function. And now I have my own function defined. This is a raster function template. I want to see rough solar potentials only of those buildings. So that's where we go. This up here, this is the arena in Pamplona. And you see that it would have a good potential of building up some solar panels on the roof, for example. So we've said it already. This has been LiDAR data. And it's not been LiDAR data converted. It's been LiDAR data used on the fly. Points defined into raster data sets as newly usable rasters. One example to visualize them that you haven't seen yet is just doing something like this. I use my terrain data. I say this is a bunch of LiDAR behind it. Now please visualize this. It takes a while, but here it goes. And you can get a better impression of that terrain here. To prove that it is LiDAR, just open it up, look at what I can do. I can dynamically filter the different returns, the different attributes that are in there to select the data that I really want to use for making my on-the-fly raster out of LiDAR. And since these LiDAR points are actually points, I'm going to leave my classical raster field and steal a little bit of the standard ArcGIS desktop functionality that's new. Once I have those LiDAR points in here, I also have a LiDAR toolbar now that I can use. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm opening up a 3D view of that scene. It's going to be pretty similar to what we've seen right now, but it's going to use the point information. This data set, not the screen extent you have here, but the data set has 400 million points. So now you can see this nice landscape. As you see, it even got the electricity wiring here, very nice. And we can move in a little bit, so you see there's houses, bridges, all that. And I want to close with a function that I like very much. Probably Rob should have showed that as one of the nice things. Take this LiDAR data, take a cross-section at any place, draw how much you want, unless you don't reach the point limit, and let it visualize you in a profile. And this is really the place I want to stop. Thank you very much.